Good morning, Hanna.
Good morning.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling well.
Jet lagged?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a big day for you guys tomorrow. Can you, before we get into that, can you just tell me a little bit about what Wonderloop is and who's for?
Sure. So Wonderloop is first and foremost a huge vision of bringing a video identity to every person in the world. So basically replacing profile photos and believing that if we can see every person in the world with a click of a button, that we can change the way we hire, invest, and give. Because all the decisions we make, we base on who the person is. So if we can bring that to like 20-second video profile snippets and create a search engine out of it, we can change kind of the way we meet new people as well.
That's a big vision and idea.
It's a very big vision, and so the iPhone app version we now have in the App Store, it's kind of like a fraction of the vision, but we're hoping with kind of creating a product in the App Store, iPhone only at the moment, that we're able to kind of show what we're really trying to do.
Cool. And how long has this vision, when did you start? It sounds like a big process with big ideas and a lot of development.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the vision started for me like so long ago when I was, super young and probably based out of living in a smaller place called Kristiansand.
Yes.
And not feeling very connected with the world. And after watching a lot of Oprah on TV, seeing her and just so wanting to connect with her and so wanting to like connect with the world, but for practical reasons I was very like stuck in my home city. So that's when I started thinking, well, how can I still meet people? How can we network even though we are at a certain location? Cool.
And I know a lot of people that have dreams and visions and ideas. And how did you start? How do you make something like this real?
Starting is probably the hardest part, because I had to leave behind the life I knew, which was in some ways a comfortable life. I had a job as a consultant doing social media, and just the decision of kind of leaving it all. But I believe that if it's not hard, then it's also not life-changing. Like if you want to change your life and do something new, it will be hard. If not, you would just do it and it would be easy, and then your life would be changed anyway. So, and I think like for, of course there's the financial question that's also hard, right? Because there's some financial risk involved that's kind of on your personal side, which is not very comfortable to take, which is why you really have to want it. Because do you want to spend like 200,000 on taking 2 years in Thailand? Or do you want to risk it and never maybe get those 2 years in Thailand and maybe have it be gone forever and maybe even have to pay back those like 2 years of Thailand? So that is kind of why you just have to want it with everything you have, or you won't last as well, because there's so many hinders, and to be able to last, it has to be like the only thing you want to do in life.
Wow. But you had to leave Kristiansand and Norway to make your dream come true.
Yeah. So nobody had the knowledge of kind of creating mobile apps in Kristiansand on this kind of level of a social interaction app. And there's also not investors, and there's not the ecosystem around that this product needs. So that's when I traveled and started kind of just learning as much as I could, and just ended up hiring developers that knew how to do it, and with my new knowledge of creating a product.
But how do you start? How do you find the right people? How do you find people that's going to fund you?
It took me 6 months
to
find developers. Like
really?
Literally, full-time job, doing nothing for 6 months.
What did you
then travel around? Well, I mean, first you have to find them, and you kind of have to find out who's good, and you have to learn, because how do you know if a developer is good? How do you evaluate their work and what they've done? And also, do they have a passion for it, or are they just working on contracts and and will they just jump to something new? So and also the salaries of developers are super high.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't want to go to the more foreign countries that are not in Europe or US, because that's kind of the learning process. I heard so many horror stories. And then I was like, whoa, I'm never, even like, doesn't matter how cheap it is, I'm not going to do that. So that's part of the learning process. So then I landed on like the middle Europe, Poland, which are not super cheap, but at the same time not as expensive as in Norway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. When you finally launched your products, what kind of social media and how did you go about to tell the world about your idea? You had your idea, you created your vision, or the star fraction of your vision.
Yeah.
And how do you get it out to the world?
So that was a huge challenge, because when I had spent kind of my couple of $100,000 on, finding developers and not having a job and creating a beta version, there was no resources left to launch. Like literally, like there was not like barely like flight tickets over to the US to be able to launch. So, and finding investors before you have launched a product is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Unless you've like started PayPal before, you're not going to get anything based on something that doesn't exist yet. But I had done kind of what you could call extensive reaching out and trying to get to know a couple of people. And I met this amazing person who saw the human rights aspect in Wonderloop, who is in many ways a big philanthropist. And I like the vision of giving everybody in the world a voice and a face. Yeah. And he financed basically a pre-seed round, which made us be able to do a soft launch in New York, which meant a lot to us. And then when heading there, it was all about learning, how does New York work? How does US media work? How do we use social media in the US? And it was just intense, awful months of work, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tomorrow you're launching it in Norway. What do you expect? What's a successful launch for you here? What is your goal?
It's funny because when we did the launch in the US, we did not anticipate so many Norwegian downloads.
No.
At all. Like, it was a big shock to us. And kind of the shock too was that they did their video profiles in Norwegian, which was a much bigger problem than we anticipated, because we could see that the product now is a mismatch between American people that does not understand Norwegian together in a product with two languages that does not mix.
Yeah.
So we were able to show Innovation Norway that we now had a lot of Norwegian downloads, but we had not been able to let them into the app.
Okay.
Which is why we've been working really hard on making the app Norwegian. And for the launch tomorrow, I guess like we just really hope that people will know about it, right? That they will know that Wonderloop now is in Norwegian. That is kind of what we're hoping for.
Cool. So last question. There's a lot of young entrepreneurs out there with ideas. What would be your main advice for them to realize their dream, or to make their big thing happen?
Oh wow, that's so hard. I think like if you can get other people with you, that's kind of probably the easiest way. I took the hard way, which is kind of going the lonely road. Yeah. If you can get other people involved and give equity much earlier in the process. So you basically have, because there's a chicken and egg problem in the beginning where there is no investment money and then you need to create a product. So if you can get people involved and give equity and do it that way, that's probably the best way. And also kind of, if you can, at least try and get some experience from abroad, at least if your product is linked to another place. Like for us, it's really important to be in Silicon Valley. And then we've hired somebody, Julie Berg, in Oslo. So that's kind of the way. So basically just go out there and set out and do it.
Do the magic.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you.